Hey everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Living Life Naturally, where you can find some natural solutions to today's health issues. So today I have with me Holly Worton. She is an author and publishing strategist. She's also a podcaster and a speaker, and she writes nonfiction books about her adventures to inspire people to get outdoors and reconnect with nature as a way to reconnect with themselves. So Holly enjoys obviously spending time outdoors, walking and running long distance trails and exploring Britain's sacred sites. She originally is from California and she now lives in England. She's also lived in Spain, Costa Rica, Mexico, Chile, and Argentina. So she has been lots of places. So she enjoys spending time outdoors, as I said, walking, going to Britain's sacred grounds, which of course to me means a lot. So many of those are Roman and so many beautiful places to go to. And her podcast and blog are about personal growth through outdoor adventures and travel. So it's going to be very interesting today when we talk to Holly and learning how to deepen our connection with ourselves, taking some inspired action, and really trusting ourselves and our intuition. So welcome to the podcast, Holly. Finally, we've been trying to get this done for a while, so I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So please tell everybody whereabouts in Britain you live at the moment.
I live in the Surrey Hills, so just southwest of London.
Lovely. So I'm assuming you've taken in the sites like Bath,
Yes.
Stonehenge.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So many beautiful places down. That's a beautiful part of the country.
Yes.
And of course, when I lived in England, I was not in tune with myself. I was not in tune with how to live a holistic, healthy lifestyle. So nature was something that I really took for granted and didn't think about the connection there. Something I've learned here in the States, and as a holistic health coach, learned how to do it. And I think that you're in a wonderful spot to learn to create that nature connection. The last years I used to go over, I was more aware. It was funny because I would do a lot of jogging, but where we were at, there were no trails. And I never, ever saw anybody jogging, but yet I know in Britain that they do. So tell us a little about your experience and what got you into this whole nature connection thing.
Well, I think nature was always an important part of my life, even though I probably didn't realize it. I grew up in California, just down the road from a state park, the Mount Diablo State Park. And so there was lots of trails up the mountain, just down the road from my house. And I used to drag my friends out in the summer on hiking afternoons. And I always really enjoyed that. My first job in summers when I was in high school was at a garden center. I was selling plants to people. And so I was just always around plants. I had my own garden from the age of 14. My parents grew their own food. So I was always kind of connected to that in some way, even though I probably didn't realize how important it was to me. And then when I lived in Mexico, I lived in a very rural area in the jungle. So I was really surrounded by greenery and plants and trees. But it really wasn't until I came here to England that I really realized how important it was. I'd only been here for a couple of months when I bought this book. I think it's 52 Walks Near London or something like that. Such a great book. And I just started going on walks. And I realized what an amazing network of public footpaths and public bridleways we have in this country that you don't really have in other parts of the world. I'm just so grateful for this network of trails. And I just started getting out there walking and sometimes running. And then I started doing some of the national trails. And I did the coast to coast this year. And I'm just really, really loving nature. And also we don't have any really dangerous animals in this country. So it's easy to get outdoors and be relatively safe in the outdoors because you don't have to worry about mountain lions and bears and all the things that you get in North America. So it's a great place to get into the outdoors.
So what are some of your favorite places that you have been through nature?
Mm. So the South Downs Way was the first long distance trail that I walked. And so that's got a special place in my heart. I love the South Downs Way. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I live right by the North Downs Way. So that's also one of my favorites. But in terms of sites, I would say Avebury is my absolute favorite because not only do you have the stone circle, but you've got other really, really ancient sites like West Kennet Longbarrow and other places in that area. It's just it's so rich in ancient history, and it just, the land feels really special there. So that's my absolute favorite place.
And it's interesting to me because when I came to the States, people one example is we had been on a cruise with the whole family and we got to Victoria in Canada, and they all wanted to go to see this castle. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go look at a castle that was 200 years old. I didn't even go inside because I'm used to 12th, 13th, 14th century castles and these huge things in England. And so it holds no appeal to me because in England, we are so blessed with the fact that there is such ancient history there.
Yes.
And it's actually a different feeling when you connect with nature than when, say, we connect here. Although you can get the connection anywhere, it is slightly different, as you say, when you're standing on ground that has been there so many thousands of years. Interestingly enough, way off topic, but my sister did our family history, and she traced one side of our family all the way back to William the Conqueror.
Oh, wow.
So we go way back. The other side, not so much, not such a great connection. But as I've aged, it's just become so much more important to me to connect with nature, to connect with who I am, and perfect place there in England to be able to do that. And how do you find the benefits of building a relationship with nature?
So it's like it feeds my soul. I don't know how to say that in more practical terms, but it just really grounds me, and helps me to relax. And as I said earlier, to connect with myself as well, because I find that I kind of slow down energetically when I go into nature, and it just helps me to get to know myself. If I'm walking a long distance trail and I'm outdoors hiking for 8 hours a day and I'm alone, because it's safe to do that in this country, I'm spending long hours a day with myself, and it's just helps me to kind of get in touch with my thoughts and what's going on for me, and kind of filling into my body, and I just feel this great reconnection with myself when I go on those kinds of adventures, even if I'm just going on like a long run or a day hike. The same thing. I tend to do a lot of these things alone, and that's what really helps me to reconnect with myself.
And when you reconnect with yourself, how have you found that has helped you in your daily life and with your health and with your lifestyle?
I think it just helps me to know myself better, which helps me to make better decisions in life, decisions that are really aligned with who I am and where I want to be going in life, rather than just reacting to what's going on. And I think making better decisions in my life obviously has led my life down a path that's more aligned with where I want to be going, rather than just kind of letting it, rolling with it, which is kind of what I did for the first 35 years of my life. Stuff happened and I did stuff, but it wasn't really, I wasn't really consciously creating the life that I wanted. It was just like, well, I guess I'll do that. Whereas now I think I'm much more mindful in the decisions I make.
So probably people are listening in on this podcast and they're thinking, okay, I have no idea how I can connect with nature. I don't know what this is all about. So how do you even get started with that connection?
I would say start with what's easy. So if that's going out into your backyard and sitting in your garden with your plants and your trees and listening to the birds, that's a great way. If you've got a park nearby, go to the park. You could go hiking, you could go running, you could go cycling. Find activities that you like in nature. And I think that's the really important thing. If you don't like going hiking, don't do it. Obviously, if you just want to sit in a park that's nearby and just look at the trees and look at the plants and really just use that time to be alone or relax, maybe do some journaling, that's fine too. Like this is all valid and great and useful. So I think it can be useful to hear other people's stories to see how they connect with nature, but ultimately you need to find what works for you.
And do you find so for me, I'm like you, I do it on my own. Do you find that it's a stumbling block if you go with more than one person?
I find that if I go with if I go with another person, I'm not really connecting with nature so much as I'm connecting with the other people.
Right.
So I find it really useful to go on my own. However, people know that I really like to be outdoors, so people are always asking me to go on walks with them, which is fine and it's great and I love it, but it's a very different experience. And even when I walk trails, I remember there were some portions of the South Downs Way where you cross paths with someone and you walk together for half an hour or so and then you split paths. And those times when I was walking with someone else, I couldn't tell you what I saw, what I walked past, what trees, birds, plants. I have no clue because I was talking to the other person. So I think for me, it's really important to get out there alone. However, not everyone feels safe doing that. So you can always go out with someone else, but maybe tell them that rather than just having a social visit, you might want to sit quietly in nature together or plan something like that with them, or do a little bit of both, have some socializing and then have some quiet time, because that will give you the time that you need to connect with nature.
So we had just recently come back from a trip to southern Utah, and of course the scenery down there is absolutely phenomenal. And we did a lot of hiking, and although there was several of us together, I think there was still, because it was so awe-inspiring, that it was so easy to connect with what we were seeing there, even though there were people around. So I think also when you've got some stunning scenery, you're just so in awe of what it is and what nature's all about that you can't help but take it all in and appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you talk about a deeper connection when it comes to nature, how to connect at a deeper level. How does one do that?
So I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to go outdoors, again, whether it's in your garden, your park, or the local woodland, or the beach, or wherever, and just find a place where you feel safe enough to sit and close your eyes and relax and just really tune into your different senses. What are you hearing? If you open your eyes, what are you seeing? And kind of look all around you. What are you smelling? Taste, probably you don't want to do if you don't know the plants around you, but some plants are safe to eat. And just touch things as well, like touch the soil, touch the bark of the tree, touch the leaves, and just really tune into your different senses and just give yourself some time to relax. And as you slow down and you relax and you just really look around and connect with everything that's around you, you might find that the birds come back because maybe they were startled by you when you first sat down. Maybe the squirrels will come back, different animals, and you'll start seeing things that you wouldn't have seen or you wouldn't have noticed if you were just walking on through or running down the trail. And I think that's one of the easiest ways to connect with nature.
So I've heard a lot of different things about feeling the ground. So when you're out there in nature, taking your shoes off and actually planting your feet on the ground and getting even a bigger connection there.
Yeah. And I know not everyone is comfortable with that, but if you don't feel comfortable doing it on the dirt, you could do it on some grass. Again, you've got to find what works for you. And a lot of people like looking at nature, but they don't necessarily like feeling it. Or touching it. So just start with what feels safe or what feels comfortable, and then you can work your way from there or not.
So what do you find is useful? So when you're getting out in nature, to me, what you're trying to do is make that connection, mind, soul, physical, whatever, you're trying to make that connection. So for some people that say their minds go a mile a minute,
Yeah.
like me. Um, is there a word of encouragement that you could give them, about getting started and when that happens?
Mm. Yeah, I think one of the things that I found really useful years and years ago when I first joined this meditation group and started meditating, and I had that mile a minute thing, I would do a kind of pre-meditation, or what I would call a mind decluttering meditation. And I would have a pad of paper and a pen, and I would sit and I would kind of pretend to meditate, and I would calm down and relax. And then something would pop into my head like, oh, you have to go buy this thing. Okay. And then I'd open my eyes and I'd write down, and I'd go back. And then something would pop into my head. Oh, you have to send that email. Okay, send the email. And I would just get everything out of my head and onto this piece of paper. And once I decluttered all of that junk, then it was so much easier to go into the relaxing part of it and the meditation part of it. So I would say do a kind of mind decluttering meditation or exercise and just get everything out of your head and onto a piece of paper where it's safe and you won't forget it. And then spend some time connecting. I think that's really useful.
Now you have written a book, right?
I've written a few books.
Tell us about the book about the trees, if trees could talk.
Yeah, so it's called If Trees Could Talk, Life Lessons from the Wisdom of the Woods. And it's a series of conversations that I had with trees. And I was given the idea by a yew tree here in Newlands Corner. And when I started working on the book, I had no idea what the stories were going to be that they would give me, but they all tended to be around the idea of nature connection and how to connect with trees so that you can connect with yourself. That was kind of the overarching theme. And each tree gave me a different suggestion of how you can connect with trees.
Interesting. And do you find that different trees from different parts of the world are very different?
That's a really good question. I've mostly communicated with trees here in England, so I don't have a lot of international tree communication experience. But I think from what I've spoken with other people about this, there tend to be kind of some overarching themes, such as nature connection, that seem to be quite common.
And again, I want to go back to the benefits. So what have you found to be the largest benefits in your life of connecting with nature?
I would say de-stress, relaxation, reducing anxiety, reducing stress, and just more than anything, coming back to myself and connecting with myself. And as I said earlier, when I do that, I make better decisions in my life, and just kind of my life goes on a path that's appealing to me rather than one that's just kind of haphazard.
And what would you say to people? So I'm thinking about the many people when we think about relaxation, self-care, connecting with nature, and they all say, well, I'm too busy to do that. Yeah. And what is one of the ways that they can get around that?
Well, if you've got 5 minutes to go up in your garden, you can do that. Another thing is to just bring nature into your house. So I've got a houseplant behind me, but you could just fill your office or your home with houseplants. And that's a way of bringing nature to you. And obviously this isn't wild nature because it's a plant in a pot, but it's something. And I think that when we surround ourselves with green living things, it becomes a normal part of our lives, and we might feel more tempted to get outdoors. And then I would say just think about how you can, take certain parts of your life outdoors. Like maybe you could have lunch in the garden or in a local park or something like that. Or instead of going for a run on the treadmill at the gym, you could go on a trail or through a park or something like that. And try to start thinking of ways in which you could do the activities that you're already doing, but outdoors instead of indoors.
Of course, here in Florida at this time of year, going outside is not fun. Although I can honestly say when we went to southern Utah, by the time we got to Zion, it was 100 degrees. And even though it's a dry heat, it was just awful. So I try to do my outdoors exercise-wise to be in nature spring and fall and winter when it's cooler. But we're blessed where I live because I live on a lake.
Oh,
the
nice.
lake's a little bit away. So we've got a lot of nature between in the conservation area. And so I can go outside and have my coffee every morning and just feel like, hey, I've connected with nature. And I know my husband does that, and we'll go out and drink coffee together. But it's really nice when you're on your own, because you can get that connection to be very personalized, instead of just talking about, oh, look at this, we get a lot of cardinals here, and they're my favorite birds. I just absolutely love them. And a lot of sandhill cranes, and it's very interesting in the spring, because then they'll come up with their babies, and so we get to enjoy that. So you don't have to, and even people in our subdivision that don't live on the lake, you can walk around there at that time of year, actually any time of year, and the sandhill cranes will often be in our subdivision walking down the streets. So you don't have to be out in the country always to connect with nature.
Absolutely. And even if you live in a city, there are usually parks. So anything is better than nothing, I think.
Yes.
Do what you can. Like you don't have to go out into the Alaskan wilderness. Like you can make do with what you've got nearby.
Right. So do you have any tips or thoughts that you could give to our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing is, like I said, do what you can. Don't feel like you have to do something extreme, or, walk the Appalachian Trail or something. Like you can do that, but like start small, start with what is easy to fit into your schedule, and then go from there. Find different ways of connecting with nature. Find what you love. Find whether it's, hiking or running or jogging or cycling or whatever. Find an activity that you enjoy. Or, maybe your activity is just going and sitting quietly in the woods. That's fine. Like find what you like. And then just try to be quiet and try to be still in the woods, because I always used to either run or walk, and I was, walking through the woods, and I would, be doing my thing and putting in the miles, and I very rarely slowed down and stopped and just sat. So I started making it a habit of always being sure to spend some still time in the woods, in addition to some moving time in the woods. So I would try to add some of that if you can.
And let's not forget that, when we think about nature here in Florida, we have all these beautiful beaches where you can so connect with nature. You can feel all of the senses. You can utilize all of the senses. And again, if I go to the beach, I love to go on my own. And really experience, because sometimes we go somewhere like the beach because, we want to sunbathe and we want to get a tan, which I don't do anymore. I've learned over the years. It's a no. But just being there in the shade and feeling the sand and hearing the seagulls and the lapping of the waves, you can be in so many different places just to get that connection.
Yes. And I think that's a very important point. So for me, when I think nature, I think the woods, because that's my special place. But the beach, you've got lakes, you've got mountains, you've got hills, you've got so many different kinds of nature. So again, find what type of nature you want to spend time in, as streams, rivers.
So how can people find you?
My website is hollyworton.com, and that's Holly like the tree, WORTON.com. And I've got my podcast, my books, blog posts back to 2011, everything in there.
And I believe that you also have something for our listeners today.
Yes. So I have the digital version of my workbook, which accompanies the book that I mentioned earlier, If Trees Could Talk. And what it is this is the actual print book, but it's got the stories from each tree, and then it's got lined spaces to kind of journal about your experience and how it went when you practiced the thing the tree suggested. So
awesome. Yeah. I'll put all of that in the show notes for people. And, I really want to encourage people, as I know you do, just if you don't spend time in nature, then do something, as you say, 5 minutes, make it a goal this week. Even put it on your calendar if you need to. Get out there and just, even if it's sitting in the grass in your garden, just spend time to connect.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being with us. You encouraged me again to think about getting out and doing more, even though it's so hot at the moment. Actually, it was quite cool when we walked out this morning.
Nice.
It was nice, but that doesn't last long.
Yeah.
But just sitting out and being quiet, enjoying what's around us, because we live such busy pace lives. Now in England, I know I always enjoyed going home because I always felt like it was more laid back.
Yep.
But things have not slowed down in the States, even though we've had COVID. It's just totally crazy. So it's even more important to carve out that time for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Holly. I appreciate you being with us today. And enjoy my home country.
Oh, I will. Enjoy mine. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.